you don't know me, my name is Allison, and along with my husband Gord, who is wandering over, he's over there on the couch. We are the owners of Skydive Vancouver Island, and I'm super excited to kick off well, we've been kicking off another safety seminar series, which we started back because of COVID. And I think this is now our fourth year with the introduction of the rigger and packer safety seminar with the incredible support and help from Bill Pentney of the Technical and Safety Committee. So first, just before I get into introductions and all that lovely stuff, the format for this seminar is actually more of a Q&A format. I had some questions already submitted into me, so I have some questions, but we also want the floor and participants to ask any questions, be part of this discussion with, thoughts, opinions, anything like that, because that's the way Bill works, and we love that engagement and stuff. I'll be introducing our panelists shortly. But awesome. So as I said, this is our rigor seminar. I'm super excited about it, and I really appreciate all of you guys that were able to come out for it tonight. We have three panelists today. We have Bill Pentney. If you don't know who he is our CSP Technical and Safety Committee Chair. I'm sure you guys can all read, but Bill's been skydiving for a really long time, and he's been rigging for a really long time. He has both FAA and CSPA, all levels. Obviously, he's an instructor in CSPA for rigging. His passion is really base jumping as well. But yeah, so he came on to the Technical and Safety Committee as the chair since 2018, and has done, and as I also sit on the Technical and Safety Committee, I've been on there now for 6 years, and it is the most amazing, diverse group of individuals. Everything from non-riggers to drop zone owners to just pure safety people, and just a real military background, skydiving, civilian background. It's just a really diverse, great group. And so I'm super excited to have him just supporting what we want to do here with Skydive Vancouver Island. I should reiterate that this is not a CSPA meeting. It's just Skydive Vancouver Island, who is blessed to have some awesome people that are on these committees. All right. So Bill will be one of our presenters or our panelists for questions and answers. And the next is J-Rod Cole. So J-Rod is a rigger instructor. He's also been rigging for a heck of a long time. I love reading the bios that I get because I had no idea that he had over 10,000 skydives as well. J-Rod actually sits as well on the board of directors since last year for CSPA, and has his own rigging loft based out of Toronto, Ontario. And it works with Skydive Toronto as well. And a lot of his dedication is to safety and education. And last but not least, Marie-Eve. Marie-Eve began basically working as a packer in 2016, and that just sparked her passion. She completed her rigger A right away, basically that same year, it sounds like, Marie-Eve, and just went full force. Today, she has her FAA senior rigger rating. She's a rigger instructor, and her core passion is making accessibility of rigging and just information, knowledge, teaching, all of those things to everybody. And always nice to see a female in this industry as well. That's very predominantly male dominated. So it's nice that she has mentored other female and stuff in our sport in rigging. So without further delay, I'm probably going to ask Marie-Eve and Bill and J-Rod, you guys can unmute yourselves at this time. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or if you want to just jump right into some of the questions I have, and then we'll open up some floor to other people that might have questions right off the hop for you.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for the presentation. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Bill, you can unmute yourself there as well, or I can. There you go. J-Rod, you as well. Excellent. Do you guys have anything to add to the intro? Anything in particular, or do you just want to jump into some of these hot questions?
Get going.
Awesome. So again, to everyone in the audience, this is fully engaged with you guys too. I did have some questions submitted, so I am gonna jump right into, well, we'll focus a little bit on the rigging side of things. And some of the tools of the trade was a kind of a subsection of this. What are your two favorite tools in your toolbox and why? Um, Maria, why don't we start with you in answering that?
Okay, so I have them here. I really like the tension bar. Just I went really with my heart there, choosing my two favorite tools. It's just the tools I really like using, but the tension bar, every time I pack a reserve, I will use it, and I really like that I can feel the tension of the closing loop. I know some people may use stronger tools, but I really like the tension bar because I can be very precise with it and I can really feel the tension of the closing loop. So I went with that one. And I also really like my hemostat. So it's a simple tool that I use for assembling soft links, and I just use it in a few different places that I don't know. I just really like this tool. So yeah, simple.
I love that. I should also mention for anyone on the call that might be French, Marie-Ève is bilingual, so if you feel more comfortable asking a question in French, we can certainly
Yeah.
accommodate that. And then she'll just translate for the rest of us. Awesome. J-Rod, how about you?
I'm very similar. My closing device, which I refer to as my torture tool, is slightly different than Mary-Ev's, but I've got its positive leverage device. I don't have it here with me right now. And then my other favorite tool is my temp pin. I've had it for a long time and I really like it.
Nice. Bill,
Pull-up
you got
cord.
some favorites?
My first favorite tool is my pull-up cord because you can use it for in a lot of different scenarios and for a lot of different reasons. And the next favorite are my hemostats, just like Maria. Again, you
Nice.
can use them in a lot of different spots.
Awesome. Anyone from the floor? Do you guys have anything that's like totally different from this? I'm going to be honest, I am not a rigger, so I don't know what those tools are, but this is good. This is educating me. If feel free to put in the comments if you guys have some favorite tools and stuff like that. This is fully engaging. So while we're on the topic of tools, uh, I had a question that came out here that was talking about how often do you guys replace your tools and what factors influence the decision to replace this? Why don't I start with you there with that question, Bill?
So I've replaced all my tools probably 4 times, and tools actually wear out and they break. For instance, if you use a knee plate, right? Your knee plate gets worn out, right? You can sand it in sand it and keep it in shape to a point, but even with that, they bend and they get to where they're not efficient anymore. Um, temporary pins bend all the time. They get chewed up. I sand my pins down and use them as long as I can, but temporary pins I replace. I probably go through 2 a year. So packing paddles. Now I have packing paddles that I've only used on nylon, and they haven't been replaced. I've had packing paddles that I've used for a pull-up device. I've had to replace them. Right. Talking about packing paddles, it's a good practice to have packing paddles that do different jobs. One for the container, one for the canopy, one uses a pull-up device if you need it. But don't mix them because if you dent them, then you start to damage the nylon. I think that's good for now. We'll see what the other two have to say.
Sounds good, Maria. How about for yourself?
Yeah, I haven't. The only time I've replaced tools was because I was finding better ones available. So, or maybe I was giving one to someone or selling one to someone. But normally, I keep my tool. I just went from a large knee plate to a narrow one, and I had a metal paddle and I found a black one and I thought it looked cool, so I changed it for that. Like I only was changing it because I found something I thought was better, but I don't change tools that much.
And J-Rod, you've been at this for a while. How about for yourself? And any particular tool that you find you have to replace more often?
I was gonna go at this in a slightly different one. Not so much hand tools that I've had to deal with, but because I run a loft, we got to the point in the loft here that our sewing machines were, taking more time to repair than they were actually doing work. So I got to the point where I had to actually replace an entire fleet of sewing machines just because they timed out, aged out parts and just constantly breaking down and being out of adjustments. So yeah, it's not just hand tools that we have to worry about as riggers.
Absolutely. Huh. Interesting. Still nothing out there from the floor, so I'm going to kind of continue on with some of the questions that were presented to me earlier. There's been a lot of hot topics over the past couple of years, and one of them has always been about the reserve repack the cycle. So 180 days, 270, 365. Last year, obviously CSPA made the very educated and informed decision and change that got moved to 270 days. But I did have the question that came forward about your individual thoughts between, like even thinking about how 270 was kind of come upon, which Bill, you might be able to answer a little bit better. But how people feel about looking at those changes to maybe even going to 365 and kind of identifying the pros and cons with kind of each of those categories. Bill, I might start with you just because obviously you were instrumental in that change to 270 for some of your thoughts on that.
Well, we'll start this off a little different too, because the reason for change is so the gear lasts longer, right? The more we pack, the more we handle the nylon, the more we pull in grommets, the actual more damage we can do to the gear. So a longer repack cycle actually saves the gear. And that was the intent of this, right? I've always been a year guy, and I'm a year guy for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons I'm a 365-day guy is because the manufacturers allow a year, right? And all the manufacturers will allow up to a year. So if they're allowing a year, I don't see why we don't, right? Now, when it comes to the committee and the CSPA and where our decision came from, so that came up to, well, if we had a year, people put in that we wanted to have a 6-month safety check. Well, that gets complicated, right? And we weren't sure exactly how to do a check, same rigger, different rigger, yada, yada, yada. So it came down to, we agreed on 270 days with no check, right? I think what we're going to do is going to happen. What you're going to see is more countries are going to join us or go to a year. And we're going to get more data in the next 9 months to a year, maybe 18 months. And I think we'll eventually be at a year also, right? But personally, I think it should have been a year ever since they've gone to nylon and the gear that we make today. The gear we make today is incredible, right? We pay a lot of money for it, but it's phenomenal gear. It's made out of material that doesn't break down, that doesn't get eaten by animals, right? So there's a lot of reasons to save the gear. And anyway, okay, that's my answer.
Awesome. Marie-Eve, do you have similar or different feelings around those?
Yeah, it's similar to Bill. I also think a year would be good. The pros of that, like we already know that if people think about the reserve being packed for 6 months to a year, the opening time or anything that could happen doesn't change as much. Like it changes most, I think it's the first 90 or 120 days that it may take longer to open in the beginning, like the more it gets, like the longer it gets packed. But after that period, like from 6 months to a year, it doesn't take longer to open. Like there's no damage happening to the canopy itself. So, and why we don't want to go over a year is because we still want to have a control of the equipment. Look at the harness, look at the AAD, all the important components that get used is really important to look at. But us having a cycle like a jumping season that is like 6-7 months maximum, from to go from 6 months to a year, like the gear doesn't get that much damage even if people go travel and come back. like there's not that much damage to the equipment, so I don't see a big cons there. And me like packing for a school and having a lot of fun jumpers to take care of, the springtime was just crazy. And how was I expected to pack everything in 1 month, because everyone wants it ready for April and not before. So I think it was just reasonable to bring it to 9 months, and even a year I would be okay with that, because I think it's still okay to have a check at that point. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
Awesome. And J-Rod, any difference in opinions or other comments you want to add that weren't talked about?
No, I'm pretty much right in line with the rest of them there. Nothing new to add that hasn't been said.
Fair enough. And how about from the floor? Is there any questions, concerns, differences of opinions that you guys kind of want to bring forward? It's just a quiet group going on there. Yeah, and as someone who sat on the technical and safety committee, and there's lots of research was done, and not only with just manufacturers but other countries and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I think, just to kind of complement what Bill said, is that if we can look to track the data to see, and if we don't see anything over the next couple of years, maybe that goes into that next consideration where we have data behind it. Go ahead, Bill.
I just recently sat on another panel with two gentlemen from SunPath and one person from CPS, and they were all, their answer was all a year also.
Cool. All right. Well, seeing no other questions.
What a boring group.
I know. That's okay. At least I have lots of questions that came in from my side of the things. So, I'm going to direct a question from Gord to you guys. So, there was a lot of obviously concern, questions, information, lack of information, whatever you want to call it, last season around the 300 line set. I believe Gyro just eliminated 300 line set as well. Would any one of you guys like to further expand on that and kind of where it sits today?
J-Rod gets to go first on this one.
All right.
So the 300 line set, yeah, they've basically pulled that from production for the most part. There are gonna be some 300 line sets still in existence, but they're going to be reserved for people who actually need them. We're talking like competition and high level canopy pilots, people who are willing to change out line sets at a very high rate of turnover, basically. One of the things that was proposed from the PIA symposium this year, it came from a fella at Gyro, I can't remember his name, was a new method of looking at line sets while we're on the topic, and jump numbers, and no longer estimating off of, well, it'll be good for X amount of jumps or X amount of time, or at X amount of wing loading. They actually basically boiled it down to a fairly simple equation of the line set minus the weight, basically leaves you with the total jumps that you can ballpark, you could say, and estimate, add in the fact that I believe it was an RD removable slider system, factors removes about 15% of the lifespan of it as well, and jumping in dry desert, sandy, harsher conditions, packing, being rough with your lines, not taking care of things can add further reduce another 20%. So coupling in those two numbers, I mean, if you're doing both of those, it's 35% off the lifespan of your canopy. So it's just something to consider. You'll start seeing more and more information up on those formulas coming up, different places here, there, and everywhere. Until then, basically they're staying with 400 for the most part, with a hybrid mix of 500 line in there where it really matters on the outside 8 lines and the inside, or sorry, basically the 4 corners of each quadrant of your, or half your parachute, sorry. Your A's and your outsides. So yeah, there's it's pretty much a new industry norm, I think, from what I'm seeing and hearing across the board.
Interesting. And Bill, do you have anything to add to that? Or Marie-Eve? There's a question. It says, can you give the rationale for the negative 15% from the removable slider?
They're chalking it up to the radius of basically the grommet replacement. I'm not sure what do we actually call those. I'm slipping my mind right now. The rings, sorry. The removable slider rings. Just because I guess they're more square than a grommet is. The radius of that turn, they're kind of chalking it up to that's causing excessive wear, about 15% worth. So
Julian, did you want to add more to that, or did you have further questions on that?
No, I'm just a fun jumper, so I just wanted to know as a jumper. So
Never just a fun jumper.
yeah.
I also believe they're smaller. They're smaller in diameter also. So the lines don't spread as far.
Yeah, and I think when they came up with that, it's because they did a survey and they came up with these numbers, but they kind of wasn't sure yet what was the reason the removable slider, but having a removable slider was diminishing by like the established 15%. But I think they thought it was maybe that, but they're still kind of looking into it. So, but that's the reason they gave that. It might be they're thinner and maybe a bit like more square, like Jared was saying, and they kind of attribute it to that where the line goes around, it's kind of more bent than on the regular grommet. It might be more like rounded. So that's what we have now. So
And just for clarification, when you guys are saying they, are you referring to all the manufacturers? Are you just referring to gyro? Are you referring to fluid wings? Or is it just
I
any?
think the research was with gyro, by gyro, but not sure if the guys know more.
Yeah, Gyro did the initial report.
And having attended the PIA, I do know, and I went to the Fluid Wings once, I know that they're actually talking quite a bit together and sharing a lot of research, is my understanding, between Mike and the gyro team as well. So I think Mike Fluid Wings is really focusing on, obviously, on that, the wear.
John LeBlanc was out.
Oh, we lost you, Bill.
So John LeBlanc from PD was actually in the seminar. Okay. Am I muted?
No, you're good. We can hear you now.
You there? Am I here?
Yeah, we hear you.
John LeBlanc from Performance Design was in the seminar that the gyro guy gave, and he agreed on everything, and they had the same results at PD. So they might not be advertising it.
Okay, cool. Any further things to add to that, or questions behind that? Is my internet good with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sometimes it goes sketchy, so I thought I'd ask. Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that. Good question there, Gord. Oh, yeah, Gord just had a good question. Anything else from the PIA that, for those of you that attended, or those of you that saw maybe reports come out of that? Was there anything from the PIA in particular that really just struck something as like, hey, this is really cool information, and to bring it forward? Bill, how about I go to you for that? Although he's muted and I don't know where he went. Maybe I'll start with you, J-Rod.
There's a lot that happens at PIA.
Maybe pick like one thing that was like, this was really cool, specific to rigging or packing or anything of that.
I did see some cool new packing techniques that I haven't seen before by a fella who packs for UPT full time. Some cool tricks that he does that I'll probably kind of drag over to my thing. I'd say the biggest thing is like if you haven't been to a PIA, I mean it's in Cincinnati next year, which is about as close to Canada as it gets. So I mean, if you haven't made the voyage, I'd give it a try. See if you can get down there for the week. The seminars are awesome and the event's just a cool thing. So
And on that note, I've been blessed. I've gone to the last couple PIAs. So even if you're just a skydiver, but never just a skydiver, it's got stuff for like skydivers, riggers, packers, drop zone owners, coaches, instructors. It's huge and it's so much fun. But definitely have that opportunity. Bill, how about you? Is there anything that like really stood out for you from the PIA that you just kind of were like, wow, that was J Rod just talked about there was a couple packing techniques, which maybe if you guys can hit up J Rod for what those techniques are. But how about for you, Bill?
Well, I went to an interesting one on a gentleman who actually teaches courses in the U.S. He teaches senior and master rigger courses, and yeah, he had a lot of good tips and a lot of good techniques that I brought back for our courses. He also said for Canadians, it's in people's best interest to actually get a Canadian rating and go down there and not do a course down there, but just challenge the exam. And so that was something that I actually was pretty positive in my mindset. And but that was a good seminar.
Awesome. Now that you just kind of brought up the FAA rigor stuff, there was a question posed to me actually just before getting on this meeting. And it's specific to, so we have changed our rules here in Canada with allowing the 270-day repack cycle. Now, if you are a FAA rigger and you've put that like you're a Canadian, so Bill for you or Marie-Eve, actually J-Rod, I don't know if you're FAA or not, but
yeah,
I'll give you. So if you now have done a reserve repack, you put your seal on it as an FAA rigger, does that still allow for the 270 days if jumped in Canada? Obviously, we do know that if we travel to the States, we follow the FAA ruling that is still 80 days. But if you use your FAA seal here in Canada, jumping in Canada, does that still allow the 270 days, or do you have to follow the FAA rule of 180?
And still,
Yeah,
we
you
follow
want to
the
answer this, J-Rod?
Canadian. Uh,
Oh,
Mary Ev's on
I
it.
think Marie-Eve had started to answer it there.
Yeah, if you look in the parachutist information manual, it says packed by an FAA rigger or a CSPA rigger for 270 days. So in Canada, the 270 days apply.
Awesome. Just wanted to get that clarified out there.
No, that's good.
Does anyone have any other questions like about the FAA packing? Jillian, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I found that at some point I wanted to, people will want to search for who's a rigger without FAA,
You
without
did.
asking them. Because, and I found the tool on the web to do it, and I forgot it. And now so anyways, do you have a link to that tool where you can search by name someone and get their FAA numbers and stuff?
We do actually. So I'm gonna be going at one point going through the CSPA website for a couple different things, but this is a good timing. Bill, are you okay if I share the screen and show the list that Michelle put up there?
Yeah.
So bear with me while I navigate. I don't look at this list very often, so let's have a quick peek. So if
So
I go,
this is the CS.
sorry, there's a link in the CSPA site, isn't it? I know the link to FAA is in the CSPA. I just don't know where the link is in for us. Let me just have a quick peek here.
No, the FAA just, I don't think the FAA releases it
I thought
Other
Michelle
than-
had said,
You can track the seal number.
so
They're
there's
not
the,
gonna
oh,
really,
it's
the
a
PIA is
service,
working
yeah,
on.
all the
on
service
getting it done,
buildings,
I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah, it's all the service bulletins that the PIA finally did
Yeah.
all their postings and stuff. Okay, so my apologies. Bill, you
Yeah.
can, I'm gonna get out of this thing and then I do know that Michelle is working on a resource list that will have an updated rigger, CSPA riggers will be right on our, on our website. And some of those, if they're FAA rated, they'll have a link once the PIA does that. So
I would say maybe it's trouble to manage that list unless it's synchronized automatically. But there was a tool I saw, I think it was on the FAA site, that I could look up a person like a Quebec rigger and know if they had a number or not. So if I find it, I'll let you know.
That does exist for the FAA.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember whatever I Google off the top of my head to go find
Yeah.
it. Every now and again I do. But you do need to have a certain amount of information about the person. Usually if you have a seal letter or a license number,
Oh.
you pull it up.
Mhm.
You can pull up the individual and see if their status is active or not, basically, or if they're like legitimately actually a rigger. And I do believe it provides some level of contact information for them, if I remember the last time I looked on there. But basically, yeah, it does exist, and there is one for the FAA. It would only list a Canadian if the Canadian's rated FAA. So
Yeah.
like Mariev's FAA, so she'd show up in Quebec. I'm FAA, so I'll show up. But
Yeah.
possibly another rigger that I have that works for us here. He's only CSPA. He won't show up in the FAA database. So
And just to share with you, Ian, just in the chat side, put the link to the CSPA one. And this is, I'm going to share it right here. So this is where it is on the CSPA side. So it's under Become a Rigger. So go to Home Ratings, Become a Rigger, Active Rigger List. So this is the active rigger list here. And this is being updated. I don't know if you can you see the actual list?
Yeah.
So this is all the CSPA ones and all their locations, and is going to be constantly updated as well. So and it is verified. The ratings are verified monthly with CSPA. So that is Ian. Thanks for finding that. I don't look at it very at all, actually. So, but for the skydivers on here and everybody, this is the list. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I'll stop sharing. Is there any other questions or anything around the FAA side, the finding a rigger side? That's a great question. Like being able to find a rigger for some people is really hard. And for those of you who might be new into rigging or thinking about becoming a rigger, you're like, oh, how do I get people to, these are some of the ways that CSPA is trying to support having that communication out to everybody about the riggers. But of course, you can always call Bill Pentney as well. He can help out. Cool.
And have you guys heard of like unwritten rules about like US drop zones allowing CSPA packing, like nothing more than the ush. It's just you can't trust ush if you're doing a trip and now you have to repack when you get there. So it's yeah, I don't assume they get an official answer on something like this, but just wondered if it moved.
I can just speak on the west side, like West Coast side. Yeah, go preparing that you won't be able to jump without an FAA for non-TSO rigs. No, TSO rigs, non-TSO rigs. Bill, J-Rod, Maria, what's the feeling down in the east? I'm frozen? Oh.
No.
So things haven't changed, right? There's a proposal. If I get it, can you hear me?
You're breaking up every 3 seconds or stuff. And a side note, I went to the Vegas drop zone like 2 weeks ago. Sorry, and they preferred the FAA rigging aspect of it.
I've heard of some where
Okay, Allison,
Yeah, Bill, you keep cutting in and out. I'm not sure why, but J Rod is about to help answer the question, if that helps any. I don't know why your internet keeps cutting in and out.
yeah, I've heard of some where they're just kind of letting it go and carrying on like the old days, and I've heard of other ones that aren't, and it tends to be, from what I've kind of heard back from a lot of people, it's the bigger drop zones that tend to stay by the rules, which is kind of common down in the US. If you look at their cloud rules, the smaller places will blow them, and the bigger places will, stay by the rules. The thing to remember with down in the US is skydiving is governed by the FAA, which would be like Transport Canada governing it up here. They're not, USPA doesn't self-supervise or self-regulate skydiving down there. So when it comes to rigging and rules and stuff like that, and repack cycles and all the rules they follow down there, if an FAA inspector shows up at their airport and they start breaking rules and whatever it may be, there's federal offenses that they're breaking, and they can carry some pretty hefty fines down there. So, and even I think even like prison penalties, because it's a federal like rule break. So yeah, I mean they do what they can, but yeah. How about you, Mary F?
I don't have much, like the feedback I have is from jumpers. So I've just heard that some people were able to go with their rigs backed by a CSPA, they didn't check and stuff. But since I'm an FAA, I don't have really feedback from people. It's just I've heard from other riggers that were like, oh, my pack job went through and stuff like that. So maybe some places are more like they kind of let it go, but I know some places they really look who's the rigger and stuff. So that's all I know.
And Bill, I'm not sure how your internet is working right now, but if you are doing good, do you want to maybe give us an update on what's happening with that whole thing between CSPA trying to get recognized by the FAA with our packing?
so the first proposal went in 2 years ago, came back a year and a half. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're much
No.
better.
Maybe try
The proposal came back a year and a
video.
half, and it was turned down by the FAA. What's that?
Maybe try turning off your video. Maybe like it'll just make your like the voice better because it keeps cutting. So yeah, maybe it'll help the service.
No.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so the proposal went in 2 years ago, it got turned down. A year and a half later, it got re-proposed by the PIA. It came back that it was on hold, okay, indefinitely. The FAA didn't have time to look at it at this present time, so it's actually still on the table. But it's on the table, and who knows when it'll get looked at with the way the governments are now. It's really hard to tell what's going on, but at least it's not stopped. And I heard the same thing as J Rod did. The rule is in place. The larger drop zones are definitely turning it down. Canadian TSO rigs packed by non-FAA riggers, but the small drop zones are allowing it. So I wouldn't take a chance. Get your rig packed. There's enough FAA riggers here. Get it packed if you go down. I'm also hearing a lot. There's not a lot of travel happening lately, right? With what's going on down there, so that might help us. We might train more riggers here.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Not sure if there's any more questions around that. Looks like we're good. All right. So I have something, I mean, while we're talking about what do I want? What question? There's a couple of really good questions that came to me. So I'm like, which one do I want to start with? I'm going to kind of bring this into some packing because we obviously have non-riggers on this, and I think packing is just as much on this meeting and just as important. So there has been a trend of hard opening on main canopies that have, so there's trends on hard openings, not necessarily associated at this time, identified to different, like it's not all sub 100s, it's like any parachutes, all this kind of thing. One of the Although we've always had hard openings, we're there in the data that we're seeing is that it's actually leading to more serious injuries. So talking dislocations, broken ribs, unconscious, those kind of things. And Bill, I know you'll speak to PIA actually doing research on this as well. But I'd be really curious at your guys' first thoughts around, and this is not, I should be clarifying that these are not body position. This is actually related to equipment packing and those kind of things. It's not body positioning in that way. What your guys' thoughts and like possible, maybe some areas of opportunity that people packing parachutes might be doing that could be resulting in hard openings or maybe elastics or anything like that. Marie-Eve, why don't I start with you if you're any kind of thoughts on the hard opening aspects?
Yeah, it happens. Like I train packers on the drop zone, and I also train people for their A license and to learn how to pack. So sometimes people come to see me, and if they have a problem, so what I've seen is sometimes when they have a semi-stowless bag, they may not stow the lines properly in the pocket, and it would create a line dump. So the way it's supposed to be stowed in the pocket, it's so there's a sequence in the lines coming out. It shouldn't come out all together, which causes what we call a line dump. So I've seen hard openings happening like that, or also using the wrong sizes of elastic, or maybe not doing double stow. Like, of course, if you just have single stows everywhere and the lines are super loose, again, you will have some sort of effect of a line dump. Other than that, what I've seen, yeah, well, it's for sure some people might not realize that you need to take your time to pack. Like some people might not realize like how important is the placement of the slider. So I haven't seen one big thing happening. Like oftentimes when it happens, I'll just tell someone like, okay, show me how you pack, and like we'll fix things here and there. So I don't have one other specific thing, let's say, to name.
No, that's good feedback though. And J-Rod, how about you? What are kind of your thoughts around it or what you've seen, experienced?
It's funny that you talk about this. I've been kind of following this a little bit since, not a long time, but a fairly lengthy time. I've been hearing a bit more chatter here and there around different either social media things. And I know I don't just breathe everything in and drink the Kool-Aid as soon as I see it. And amongst other people and riggers and stuff like that. Pia is nice because I got to have a nice chat with a few different people about the same subject. But I'm starting to hear some chitter chatter about particular brand of canopy is prone to hard openings as well. They're starting to find quite a few being reported throughout the field now. I'm not going to say who or what because it's nothing definitive yet, but yeah, there is that aspect that can happen as well, that it can be a particular brand sometime, even a particular manufacture date, right? That's why we put serial numbers and dates of manufacture on everything. So.
Awesome. Bill, anything you'd like to add to that?
I think it's going to take a little bit longer for more hard openings to actually find out what the one or two culprits are. I don't believe it's just one individual that's packing bad or one method of bad packing. I think there's a couple other involvements, whether it's elastics or semi-solus bags or, et cetera, et cetera. But you're going to like this one because the more AIM reports we fill out and the more honest we answer the AIM reports, the easier we'll be able to figure out what the hard opening problems are.
Perfect answer, Bill. Perfect answer.
PIA, I just want to add to that. I want to answer why I want to respond to that. The PIA, Parachute Industry Association, is actually looking into it, right? And of course, they'll take our numbers and this USPA and Australian numbers and put them together and see if they can come up with something quicker than we can, right? So it has been looked into at a world level, right? But that's all I have for now.
No, that's awesome. And Brian SVI, yeah, the more AIM reports we get, those trends are going to go upwards. We definitely, for those of you who aren't aware, one of my roles is analyzing the AIM reports that we do receive. And it will be a discussion that I might as well just bring up now. And Bill, you can jump in with this too. We've added, and we listened to everybody and we've changed the AIM reports. And so we've made them a lot more user specific and friendly. So instead of having one AIM report with all this stuff filled out that nobody knew what even was talked about, they're now broken into there's four different types. There's one for if it's a tandem, accident, incident, malfunction. If it's a student, accident, incident, malfunction. For the next experienced jumper, accident, incident, malfunction. So those are those three ones. Pretty straightforward. They're pretty easy to fill out. We have added a new one, and a lot of this came out of trying to identify trends, be it with line types, canopies, hard openings, well, actually not the hard openings because that'd be different, but with equipment irregularities. So they really came out of the line wear and stuff like that. So as packers, whether you're a skydiver who just packs your own, whether you're a packer who packs at drop zones, whether you're a rigger that does, rigging at a loft or just personal rigging, the equipment irregularity AIM report is essentially to capture anything to do with the equipment that didn't happen in a phase of a skydive. So for example, you're packing and all of a sudden you see that the lines are excessively worn, or RSL I don't know anything that I'm as far as
Misrouted.
I'm trying. Bridle's misrouted. You're doing a gear check on somebody and you find that, all the bridle's misrouted. It's those things that, yes, we may have fixed and then they went on to carry on with their skydive, but it's all of those type of occurrences that we're going to start hopefully encouraging everybody to track. So from a rigging side, there's obviously other stuff in rigging. This is all non-punitive. This isn't like, it could have been your error. It could have been somebody else's error. Jillian, if you're packing your parachute and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I did this, it's just filling that out, because if you're doing it, I guaranteed a whole bunch of other people might be doing it. And it's a really educational opportunity. As far as the stuff like, worn out lines or whatever it be, that might be something that needs to be escalated to manufacturers. It might be, escalated for training stuff. So those are the kind of things that AIM report will hopefully resolve. We're very, very, very close to launching them all. So just keep your eyes out for that. I'm kind of excited about that. And it really helps the manufacturers out, because, for example, even if you look back at when gyro with the Leia, they were having tension knots repeatedly on the Leia, and they ended up replacing everybody's line sets and fixed their error, and it all came from data. So I hope that we can spread that same message across to everybody. Good on that section? Awesome. Any other questions around that area? Or I got another question I can jump into that's right on this fun stuff. Marie-Eve, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What is the sketchiest thing you've ever found during a repack inspection?
Okay. Well, I consider myself, I can't say lucky, but I'm glad I didn't find something that made me really scared or call another rigger, call the rigger to tell them what I found. But I did find some stuff that I actually this morning, it's funny because this morning I found like a little it looks like a little wood
Like a
how do you call
staple
it?
gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wooden. I found that in in the pilot chute, reserve pilot chute. Like, but this is the first time I find something like sharp or something in a reserve. Like I never found like a paddle or something like that. But just this morning I found this and I thought like, yeah, this is this is sketch, I would say. But other than that, I just maybe found kind of little mistakes by rigger that I see that are common that I kind of wanted to mention. I often see cutaway cables that have been trimmed too small, like too short. I try, like if I catch it on a rig that I've seen by another rigger, I mean, that was like the cables were trimmed by another rigger. I try to do some education and tell them like I'm also an instructor, so I also like tell them like how to properly measure them. But it just happened often that sometimes like when they're under 3 inches, that's like, you know, that's way too much. So that has happened. Or sometimes the routing of the cables of the AAD, sometimes there's not enough slack in the cables. So like you'll see it's like once the rig is packed, it's gonna pull on the display unit or on the cutter. So like there shouldn't be any tension on the cables. Like it's not made for that. It's an electrical component. So this is just something I kind of see often, and it seems to be easy to fix. So, but thankfully, I've never found something that I was like, oh my gosh, it could have been like fatal or something. So,
Awesome. J-Rod, how about you?
Well, that's where I get most of my tools from. No, I'm kidding.
Very
Um, no, I steal all my tools from Bill when he's not looking. The sketchiest thing, I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is I opened a rig once and I found that the base plate, which is what holds our closing loop system and it anchors it to the back of the reserve tray. I found one of those half torn off, about to completely come all the way off. It was a circular base plate and it was, I'd say, 3/4 of the way off, half, 2/3, we'll say 2/3 of the way off. That was kind of an eye opener. Other than that, I haven't really found a lot of tools. I find pull-ups often in people's pack trays, which is, I think people just kind of stick them in where they can. They think in behind the reserve risers is a good place and they end up down in the pack job. But that's about it. I can't think of, I'm sure I found worse. I just can't think of anything right now.
Awesome. Mr. Pentney, Bill, how about you?
I did a reserve pull handle test on a repack. Took 100 pounds.
oh my God.
Wow.
And now, Alice, you don't know this. The maximum is 22 pounds, sorry. So that was quite a big mistake. I did contact the rigger. We did have a conversation, right? Now, in speaking that, that's the disadvantage of a power tool, right? So, you know, as good as the power tools are, and I even use a power tool now myself, which I hadn't for years. But as you get older, you lose more strength. So I'm now using a power tool, but doing a test on our pin to make sure that the pin is under 22 pounds, right? Okay, thank you.
There you go. I actually, before when the call started earlier, Ian and I were just on it together, and he was telling me something funny. Ian, do you want to share what you saw this on the Facebook today? He shared a link to it on our chat group, but I don't know if he.
Sure. Actually, on the chat list, I posted a link to the Facebook thing on rigging for dummies. Somebody posted this morning that they had some training gear they were using for rigger training, and when they cracked it open today, they found a selection of Easter treats. So apparently, the concept was welcome because, of course, chocolate never goes bad, and somebody got a snack out of the deal.
And it's Easter this weekend, so like the Easter Bunny came early and really was sneaky about that.
So the link to, if you want to read more, see what they found. The link is in the chat list.
Oh,
so yeah, it's that was the first for me to hear that one, finding snacks.
I love it. I actually am going to put this out to the floor, especially those who are, skydivers or packers here. In doing gear checks when you're going for your skydives, what would be some of the sketchiest things some of you non-riggers or riggers on here, what kind of sketchy things would you say you have seen in gear checks? Any of you want to give me a hands up? Is Brian, are you going in for the comment? Or he's just going to type? Who else is on this call? I saw Dustin just join this call. RSL's routed to the 3 rings. There you go.
Yeah, true.
Anyone else got some sketchy things they've seen on gear checks? I know Dustin, as a coach and instructor, he does some pretty funny things to make sure students are doing gear checks.
I've been on Twin Otters down in the States when I looked across at the guy across the way from me and found chest straps not done up at all. And it was a surprise to the person. I've found a total of 6 chest straps not done up with people on planes. But literally, with people that, on a small drop zone, it's, before you get on the plane, but 3 of those were literally on Twin Otters down in the States. Just looking at the guy across the way, and he'd forgotten they 3 times different chest straps not done up at all.
We have where are those? I'm just muting you there, Dustin. We had an incident that came through, don't know who or where or anything, but a wingsuiter without leg straps.
Oh.
So that just think about their housekeeping and those kind of things. That's scary. It was definitely something that happened. Not at our drop zone. It was just a name report that was out there.
I can share. I have something similar. I was done packing 10 minutes. I was on the next load, and I find my removable slider in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So something else to check when you're on the plane. Someone, yeah.
Absolutely. Brian, another good comment. AADs and ALTs not set correctly. More an issue. We have an offset between our landing and takeoff. So yeah, making sure that's set. Dustin actually, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Dustin, but Dustin, you even had mentioned, Dustin did the presentation for coaches and instructors. So if any of you guys, but I think it's a good practice for anyone who's an experienced skydiver or packer, especially, you do a very obvious issue with every time you're doing the solo, like getting a solo checkout of the gear check. And it's a very obviously misrouted chest strap. And how often is it failed, Dustin?
The majority of the time, but that's not. I do that on the checkout jumps, but I do it when I'm teaching the coaching courses too.
Oh yeah.
And I would say the majority of the coach candidates miss it also.
Yeah. And Brian's laughing because we shuttle to our airport and we have had people forget their rig. So, I mean, obviously because we shuttle, it's different, but yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It goes to show gear checks that's our first step. And so with riggers and packers and skydivers, we all have that component of the equipment. That's why this presentation was not just for riggers, it's for everybody. A lot of people pack their own parachutes as well. I just a question for you. I'm going to go to Marie-Eve. What would be the common packing error, most common packing errors? So not reserve, but most common packing errors that you see, be it with experienced jumpers or, newer jumpers and stuff like that.
I often see main closing loops that are too long. I've heard even a girl, and she has had a premature opening at some point, but then when she brought me her rig, she's like, "Oh, can you look that everything's okay? Like, is it the like?" She had no clue, right? And she's like, "Oh, someone mentioned me the BOC pocket. Can you look at it?" And I look at her rig, and the closing loop is way too loose. Like, I can move the pin, like I can just blow on it, and like it moves. It was so loose, and I'm like, "What's up with that?" Like it definitely can be one of the reason, you know. And she was like, but I'm worried that the pilot chute won't pull the pin out. But like, the pilot chute is really strong, you know. Like if the bridle is routed correctly, it can pull very, like, it's really strong, the pilot chute. And if the pilot chute you're afraid it's not strong enough, it might be because it's too old or it's too small for the rig. Like we've had that happen before. Before I took over the school and the gear, we've had some pilot chute hesitation on some canopy, student canopies, but we found out that the pilot chute installed on it were way too small, and it was creating an hesitation with like instructor on each side. So anyway, all of this to say the pilot chute is strong enough if it's the right size and if it's healthy, you know. But yeah, like closing loop too long, it's really something I see a lot. I've mentioned semi-stowless, otherwise what, yeah, I don't know, like that's what comes to mind for now.
How about you, J-Rod? I mean, you know, you're around a drop zone a lot too. What would you say some of the most main packing errors?
Well, stows are a favorite, especially for people when they're new, only putting one stow on. It was a bit of an interesting time going through that recent change in elastic band manufacturers, because the quality and the stiffness were two different things. So I saw a couple people try like triple stowing them because they just thought that they were super loose and they needed to put an extra stow in there. So those caused some hesitations on opening and pretty darn close to you know, bag locks almost, but good pilot chutes conquered the day. A lot of just common things. I haven't seen a particular trend. It's usually a lot of stuff in ooh, I know a good one. I really like it when people tend to move away from where the manufacturer tells you to put the lines of uh your stowed lines, if you have elastics all throughout, or your locking stows to the bottom of the container, and they like to keep them square and just put them right down to the bottom. That can kind of lead your lines to kind of be encouraged to hang out up around your reserve tray. And on some openings, hopefully you never experience it, but it can lead to your lines wrapping around your reserve tray and trying to tear your reserve tray right off your container. So, yeah, put your lines to the bottom.
Awesome. And Bill, how about you? Anything from a packing point of view? Non-reserve?
Yeah, people and packers and even owners of their own gear not following the packing manufacturer's instructions. Putting folds where folds don't belong, not putting folds where folds are supposed to be, right? Not checking lines. That's what I see the most. People inventing new ways to pack and not clearing it through the manufacturer.
It's true.
That's so true. And kind of on that note, for those of you who are on the call that aren't aware, the Technical and Safety Committee did release kind of a gear inspection video. I'm just going to pull it. I won't play it or anything like that, but just to show you guys where it is. It is a phenomenal tool, not only for yourself as, you know, a rigger, packer, skydiver, but also to like get the word out, let people know, because this is just a cool tool. So if you're on the CSPA main page, if you just go to safety, you can go to safety educational resources, which is a new thing for CSPA website. We have this resource page now for skydivers, drop zone owners, and riggers. So it's actually under there for the skydivers because, well, we want skydivers to actually check this out. So this is just the PDF guide of what a main parachute inspection, like the things that you should check, that was all created. So I encourage you guys all to have a look at that. And then I should know where this video is because I had to, it saved my bacon on my safety day. Why don't I have it here? That's nuts. Oops, it's not for rigorous skydivers. Pardon me as I find all this. Here we go. So here is some video. So this is just an example, and it goes through. I don't know if hopefully you guys see that.
Locate your equipment and ensure you have the correct rig.
It's just a great resource guide. They go through everything that way for you. I certainly
Turn on or check the AAD.
I certainly won't play it all at this time, but I encourage you guys to go check those out. There's 3 of them up there right now. The Technical and Safety Committee does have plans to be always working on this. They're both in French and English. So if you go to the French site, it's there too. But there's pre-boarding and inspect while you pack as well. So great resources to refresh yourself if you're experienced, but also for educating your novice skydivers as well. So I thought that was a good way to interject that into this conversation. Any questions, concerns right now from the group? We're still doing all right? So while we're talking about packing, I would love to know, or I don't, this is a question that came, but I'm also interested too. What is your favorite and most least favorite rigs to pack, and what makes them so? So be it packing like main stuff and then reserve stuff as well. I'm assuming there's some differences in opinions. J-Rod, why don't I start with you for that question?
Kind of funny. I don't necessarily have a rig I don't like to pack. I don't judge rigs. I hate them all equally. No,
Is there one that's
like-
like more challenging that just like really challenges you?
I'm probably up there with everybody else. I don't know many people that actually like packing a wings rig, but I pack a lot of them because I know Bill absolutely hates it, and I sometimes do them for him. So
Nice. How about you, Maria?
Yeah, the wings to me is not too bad. The rig I don't like packing is the Mirage because I like making the rig look good, and I'm never able to make a Mirage look good because if you look on each side of the reserve flap, there's always those pleats, and the older the rig, the more pleats there are. And now my boyfriend just got a new Mirage, and I was like, don't make any pleats, and like they're starting to appear, and I'm like, oh my god, like nightmare. And my favorite is the Vector. The Vector is just a candy. Like at the end of the day, I keep a Vector to do. It just always looks nice. Everything fits right, and yeah, my favorite.
I love that. How about you, Bill?
They're all good except the wings.
I love that. That's so well, at least J-Rod's there to pack the wings. That's too funny.
He's there. I got.
So I guess I mean when we're talking about rigs here, favorites, least favorite. So when we talk about rigs and age of a rig, how old is too old? Is age something you guys look at? Is it something that, you know, skydivers can consider when they're buying rigs? Or is it more about like condition and how people have taken care of things? Can you guys expand on that particularly? Why don't I start with Bill? Or
So in
J-Rod?
North America, we don't have a life expiry date on Skydive here. Oh, you didn't hear me?
Yep. I'm not sure why you don't think we can hear you, Bill.
Oh.
Maybe Bill's speakers are
Anyway,
working.
we don't have a life expiry. No, I can.
Oh, Bill, we cannot hear you now. You're just in and out. So maybe I'll move the question over to J-Rod.
He's muted now.
Oh, now he's muted. I don't know. Yeah. J-Rod, why don't you kind of step in here now? Bill will figure it out.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to get across there is in Canada, we don't have an age limit or anything like that. So, um, some countries, surprisingly, some of the European countries have like a 20-year lifespan on them. We do have some manufacturers that have recommendations as to when they'd like to see the canopy back or the component back, maintenance components and such, when things need to be done that we follow. But other than that, I think that's kind of what he's trying to get across there. Myself, I've seen some old containers that are in really, really good shape, um, that are fantastic. And if there was a lifespan of, say, 20 years, then it'd just be throwing out something that's completely fine. I always found javelins to be kind of interesting in the sense that if you look at a javelin from, 1999 or so, or like late 90s, early 2000s, to a javelin that was made, a few weeks ago, they're very, very little difference, functionality template wise. So, but I mean, at the same time, I've seen some rigs that, were manufactured not very long ago that have been through the ringer, and they need to be shut down and put away. So I think an on condition status is the best way to go, and I kind of appreciate it myself.
So Marie-Ave, how about you? What's your thoughts behind that kind of?
Yeah, I don't have, I've never set myself to a certain maximum years, but what I've, like, let's say it'll depend if I guide someone to buying a rig. What I see is that the gear is changing quickly, and now even though someone is just starting jumping and they might not do free fly now, they will get to free fly at some point. Everyone will, like nowadays, we have to think of a rig that's gonna free fly at some point. So I've become very picky when I guide someone to buy a rig, because I want them to use it at some point for free fly, because we know it's gonna happen. And older rigs were not designed for that, so like the flaps are not holding as well and stuff like that. So I'll take that into consideration. But also, I want this person to be able to sell the rigs in a few years. So it's one thing to buy it cheap, but then if you buy it $3,000 and then you're stuck with it in 2 years, it's, to me, it's not a good buy for that person. So I'll explain all of that to them. When it comes to packing, I've tended lately to go away from packing, let's say the Ravens and stuff like that, because they have a very low maximum exit weight on it, like just the way canopies were built before, and this is not a canopy that is supported anymore by the company. So because of that, I'll try and tell jumpers like, okay, like it's time to change your equipment at this point. So I want to say like older models that are not supported anymore, like I'll tend, like I've never really refused a rig unless there was like, say, I found rust on the, like on the hardware, like let's say like a major thing. But it's like, it's not something like, oh, it's 20 years old, I'm not packing it. Like it's not like that. It's more like I'll tell the person, you know what, like because of these reasons, like this rig has done its life, I suggest you buy something new. And something that gets maybe overlooked is the harness. If it's discolored by sunlight and just usage, it has already lose a lot of its strength. So there was like some research done by UPT. It's been a long time, but they've tested different pieces of webbing, type 7 webbing, after like sun damage and like different type of friction damage and stuff like that. And it was impressive to see that just sun damage, how much strength was lost. So it's good also to think about that, because sometimes the harness will look good, but then it's really discolored. So again, that's, anyway, on older rigs, it's something to look at. So I don't have a year to tell you, but I evaluate many things. So
I love that. And Maria, you kind of jumped right into a really good topic as well. Just FYI, Bill's having computer issues, so I'm probably going to go bouncing be back and forth between Maria and J-Rod. And of course, other people on the call. Again, this is a group discussion, so don't be shy to raise your hand. Novice jumpers, and I think experienced jumpers, obviously, we gain a little bit more knowledge and stuff like that. But when we are looking to buy new equipment, what would you say are like your top 3 main things you should consider other than being scammed on the online sites that are
Yeah,
happening left, right, and center, which is horrible?
yeah, that's new since
Dustin,
a few months or years. It wasn't like that before.
oh, that there was some poor
Scammers,
guy that just lost 3 grand or something like that to a rig. So I
oh,
think that people are starting to get more. But when we actually look at the rigs themselves, or as experienced jumpers, when you're trying to get into, a different model or that kind of stuff, what would be your top 3 recommendations, kind of about buying gear?
well, okay, I will try and not buy something, not have like a new jumper, buy something older than, say, definitely not older than 20 years old, because as we know, like it's continued to age, and more people don't want to buy like 20 years older gear. Like, even though it looks good, some people are just like, I'm not buying that. So because I don't want the new jumper to stay stuck with that, like I would say, like, definitely more than 20 years old, to, like, anyway, when I guide them, I tell them not to buy that. And to go towards reserve, that the company are still in production, I would say, or that you can still have support from the manufacturer. So like, I will not have them buy, like I was saying, a Raven, or like the decelerator, like the Vortex rig also, like the company closed. So let's go with rigs that are like companies that are active right now, so Sunpath and Vector and stuff like that. And I prefer having them buy the rigs with stainless hardware, just because the other type of hardware tends to rust over time. Like, if it's near the beach, like a salty water, even though the rig doesn't fall in the water, like, just with the salt in the air, it gets on the webbing and it tends to have the hardware rust prematurely. So those are little things I would say. And definitely to look at the I want to say this, the states of the flaps. So because when you do free fly, you're in many different positions and you want the flaps to be tight against the rig. So if you're able to see the rig, just to test the flaps a little bit, see if they stay closed properly, the cover flaps, riser cover flaps as well. And yeah, there's many things it seems, but those are the things that comes to mind. Yeah.
That's fair. And J-Rod, do you have other things to add to that, or?
Yeah, just on a bit of a different thing. I mean, I think I agree with all the things that Mary Ev is saying, and I think a couple other things that need to be considered and kind of bridge the gap to a lot of people who are instructors and leaders in our sport. Especially when it's novices, a more advanced skydiver or a seasoned skydiver, they know what they want, they know what they need. They want the newest and the coolest, but it's the youngins that we're guiding. And I think if you think back to when you were at that stage, you were just hot to trot. You wanted a parachute, you wanted to get off rental and get your own and whatever else and whatnot. I think one of the big things is to stress to them that it's a journey, it takes time. Don't rush or you're going to get scammed, kind of thing, but take your time and listen to the people around you. And for those of you who offer the help, and talk to them about the different aspects of a rig. It's not only the riggers who can do this, it's the instructors and the mentors and the guiders, around the drop zone. I mean, some drop zones may not even have a rigger there on that particular day. I was looking at the list there of active riggers in Canada, and a couple of the provinces are really, really light on riggers. So, I mean, it's not like they maybe have direct access to a lot of riggers. So, yeah, just keep that in mind with features and whatnot. but fit overall trumps everything. If it doesn't fit, don't buy it. No
Oh,
good. Yeah.
fair enough. I assume you guys don't want to spend a whole bunch of time modifying all these rigs instead of just someone finding one that fits right for them or that is free fly friendly or XYZ that they're looking for. So thanks you guys very much. I did tell Bill if he has anything to add, but again, same for you guys. If you have anything to add, either chat or please raise your hand and I will get to you guys. So we were just talking a little bit about the novices and just as kind of more of a, for everybody's sake, what advice do you have for novice riggers, or I'm going to say rigger or people who are interested in rigging? But what kind of advice would you have for those starting out into that rigging process or into the rigging world? What kind of advice would you have for them? I'll go back to Maria for that.
Yeah, okay. Well, giving courses through the years, I see that people who have packed their main a lot just do better on the course. So I would say let's say for people interested, I would say like if they just started jumping, like I have new jumpers like that, they're like they want to know everything, right? So I often tell them like, oh, you can come see me pack a reserve if you want, and we can talk about the equipment. But I tell them like pack your main, like just packing your main, being at the drop zone, and like just learning like that really helps for the rigger course, because the rigger course is really concentrated on packing, learning new things. And if you're already having trouble with packing your main, like this is going to be really hard for them. And for new riggers, I would say definitely practice packing. Like I know it's maybe redundant, but like it's just crazy what it does for the practice. And also what has helped me when I was a new rigger was to work with other riggers, really. I had the pleasure to work with Jeff Dean a lot, with Bill Pentney, we have a rigger here in Sherbrooke, a rigger B that I've also talked to a lot. And I've just learned so much from those people. So like I find that maybe to rig alone in your basement and to not ask questions and to try and figure out on your own may be very difficult, may get discouraged. So definitely to reach out and practice a lot. Yeah.
Love that. J Rod, anything you'd like to add to that?
Take your time. It's not gonna come fast. And especially like on course. Oh man, it gets frustrating. I love waiting for the moment where they're just like they throw their hands up, kick their pack job across the room and say, I'm done.
Cry.
Yeah.
Cry in the fetal position.
Just take your time. And kind of along with what Mary Ev is saying there, stay open, talk to other riggers, ask for help. Look what they did. Like if you're a new rigger, when you're opening a pack job, open it up nice and slow. Don't just throw it across the room. Open it up and have a look at what they did and disassemble their pack jobs. And you can learn some pretty cool tricks, or at least like learn some things that you need to ask some questions about. Like, how did you do this? Or why did you do this way? Follow the manual, but there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to say, right? I mean, you follow the manual, but you can do it and get the outcome that works for you, because everyone's going to have a slightly different way of packing, whether they hold it with their left hand or their right hand, or they do it on their head or they do it on their feet. It doesn't matter. Just follow the manual, but find your own way of doing it too. So, yeah.
Awesome. Sorry for the clicking noise in the background. Gord's making me dinner. And yeah, Bill put in the notes mentorship and networking, and I'm going to expand a little bit on that because it's so true, especially, and I don't only say this, but for those interested in getting into rigging, those novice riggers, even those riggers who want to go out and get like their next rating, or they want to become a rigger instructor and those kind of things. Mentorship and networking is huge. And Maria, you touched on that, right? Definitely. And so one of the things, that CSPA has introduced just recently is a revised new mentorship program. I won't go into a ton of history about it and all the changes, but I will show you all where it is. So for those of you who are, already riggers and would like to be a mentor, that we're accepting applications for that. I am also the LTAD chair and WIC chair, and this is kind of the initiative that came from the WIC and WIC committee, but it's for everybody. So if you go to the little home page here for the Learn, there's a mentorship program. I'm not going to describe it, but encourage you guys all to read it. And then there's the different phase. And as you can see here, the CSPA rigger development is one of them. And so this is for everyone in the rigging, like whether interest, and like I said, or you're a rigger already, but need continued mentor, want continued mentorship. The cool thing about all of this is that it is designed to be either in person or virtually. And so that goes to the point, J-Rod, you were saying about the list. People have accessibility issues that to get to, there might not be a really experienced, rigger B at a drop zone in the Yukon. And so, but there's a rigger up there or they've done something. So it's about the accessibility that way. So I do encourage all of you who are on this or watching this afterwards, because it will be recorded, is check out the information on here. And there's lots of other areas you can be a mentor. And don't forget, you might be someone who's experienced and you put in for be a mentor. You might also want to fill out an application to be a mentee. I have had a couple mentees now that are junior riggers, but they're looking for mentorship in more rigging. But they're awesome mentorships, mentoring in, as coaches or to novices and students. So it can go on both sides. So just to show you guys that, and it is a big part. And I also want to just express the fact that Bill has the most open door policy ever. So, from a technical safety committee side, you can find his contact on the website as well. Send emails. I think that Bill is very transparent and will do everything he can to find you answers that you might need, or at least get you in the right directions of things. So awesome. Kind of on a little bit of a switch of things. I've got two more questions that were presented out this way, and then I'll open it up to the floor if anyone else wants more, if you don't have any now. But there has been conversations. I mean, obviously a couple of years ago, there was the change for the rigger revalidation. Now we revalidate that rating in CSPA. But what steps do you guys believe that riggers should take to mitigate their liability and risk? I'm going to start with you on that one, J-Rod.
Waiver up, get a waiver, protect your assets. Like I said, I run a loft, so I have people that work for me. Bill's one of them, so I not only have to, protect my loft, protect myself, I have to protect the people working with me and for me, right? So I have everybody that comes in and does a repack with me sign a waiver. That rig doesn't go back out the door unless they've signed it, kind of thing. Get one. It's a huge thing. Hopefully you never have to get to a point where you're depending on it or falling behind on it or hoping it works and testing it out. But yeah, I'd say waiver up and documentation. That's another big thing that we do here. We document a lot of stuff. We have every rig that drop zone side, like the school side of stuff. Every rig's got a file and a working history on it and a traceable record of everything that's happened to that rig that we fill out. So, we do, an hour of work and we'll probably do 10 or 15 minutes of paperwork just to follow along. A lot of what we do is going to be CYA, cover your ass if anything ever goes to court. Sadly, it's the dark side of our sport that, it may happen to some of you, it may never, hopefully it never does, but everything you do, you've got to be able to back up with adequate information and decision making and everything that you've done. So make notes and write down what you did, and because you're not going to remember in 2-3 years down the road when something happens. Like if we go to a 1-year pack cycle and then what is it, the lifespan, what do they call it, that they can drag out a court case for up to 2 years. or more actually. You know, we're talking 3, 4, 5 years down the road before something happens and they call into question, did you do this on that pack job? Like, you're not going to remember. So make notes when you do stuff, right? Especially if you do anything out of the ordinary.
Awesome. Maria, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's well, I agree with what Gerald's saying. Like, I also wrote that to keep, let's say, repairs. You did a reline, keep like the serial number of the line set of the canopy, so then you have like a record of things also. And but me, like, I thought about things more applicable, because let's say as riggers we work kind of in the shadows, you know, like we're in our loft and we're hidden, nobody really knows what we do. So me, I always want to press, like when I give a course or with myself, to check with the manufacturer what we're doing, because they're the one designing the rig. So they will tell us, like, should we do this with our license or no, what material we should use, how it should be done, like to, like, if we really follow what the manufacturer is saying and you pack by the manufacturer's manual, if something happen and you can prove that that's how you pack, and like if they open your rigs and they see that you always follow the manual, then there's really little risk or anything. So first, do the right thing, like just follow the instruction, I would say. And I just wanted to add also, like, sometimes our gut feelings can also be really telling, you know. Like, I have the B license, which allows me to change the harness if I want in Canada. But like, if I don't feel comfortable doing it, I won't do it. So that's what I mean about the gut feeling. It's like sometimes I may have the skills or the license to do something, but I don't feel this is right for me. The gut feeling is actually really good to follow. It may mean that I need to get more information or get some help, or just to refuse to do it. So like, don't assume, and don't yeah, just don't assume also.
Oh, that's perfect. That makes complete sense. It actually leads me really well into my next kind of question for you guys. And then I have one more question after that, which is kind of a big one. But so what is your biggest concern regarding riggers or packers and their practices in general? Kind of like, what keeps you up at night, guys? Like, what are your biggest concerns just in rigging and packing in general that keeps you up?
Well, I think we've mentioned it before. So like, it seems some people want to try to find shortcut for things, like either riggers or packers. It seems to be happening more with packers, but yeah, shortcut and discovering new ways to do things. And it's like, oh, it has happened for 100, like it has worked for 100 times, it's always going to work, you know. They kind of rewrite the rules like that just because nothing happened. They think it's fine to do. But yeah, I would say just um, don't cut corners and don't assume, I would say. Yeah, just keep high standards also. So
Love that. J-Rod, what keeps you up at night, my friend?
Oh, when Bill figures out what I did with all his tools. Um, I what keeps me up at night, it's changes day by day, honestly. But I'm kind of along the same lines as Mary Ev there, of like, stop trying to come up with a new way to do things. There's ways that work, and there's sometimes, like, I'm all for advancement and discovery and stuff, and if you want to do that, figure it out on the side, but not on your client's gear. Follow the instructions, do it the way we've been doing it, kind of thing. There's certain things that have wiggle room, there's certain things that there's no wiggle room. So yeah, I kind of second what Mary F says there on stay with normal practices.
Yeah, and I think you guys mentioned it earlier too. Like, the manufacturers do the research, and so, trust your manufacturer, trust what they're saying. And yeah, that's awesome. I can say at a drop zone, you definitely see a lot of people potentially that trash pack. They want to get on that next load. They're in a rush. They don't have their turn gear, whatever, and they're just trash packing. And Maria, if you had mentioned it, I think you did as well, J-Rod. Like so much of this whole entire presentation or questioning back and forth, it's like take your time, reach out, ask questions. If you don't know the answer, find the answers. Reach out to the experts. And we say that in rigging, but that's our whole sport as an industry, because that's what's going to actually push us to stay safe, to stay on top of things, and to have that communication across everyone. Attending things like these. Oh, there's somebody's joining my meeting right at the end. Attending safety seminars, and obviously there's some people, a lot of people that didn't attend, but if I even look at our past ones, rewatching the safety videos, and that's why we record them and put them up there. So that's all the questions that kind of came into me prior. I know Gord asked a few, I added a few in there. We do have this meeting scheduled. I did put till 7. There have been some of these that have gone on for hours post conversation, which I will open up. But right now, anyone that is, out there on the floor, Bill, if you'd like to try to speak again, but is there anyone out there that has any questions, comments, suggestions, um, areas of opportunity you might find, anything to that matter that you would like to bring to the table? Oh, Brian's leaning in. I can't see anybody else. So just remember, you can raise your hand. You can see my little hand. It just says raise hand icon, and then lower it. I can't even see it. I can't see everybody. I love it. And I just want to point out too to everybody, it's really nice to see the non-riggers on here as well. And that's the push, is to be able to have skydivers and people who pack their parachutes, because it all starts with those good practices. Marie Eve, like you just said it, pack a parachute, be packing parachutes. That kind of keeps that safety. Brian, were you adding something, or were you going to just talk? Oh. Nikki's just, so Brian has asked the question, tube stows versus the current elastics.
You even still get tube stows. I haven't seen them for years. They were kind of, they were interesting. I tried them out a bunch. They're expensive. They break all the time. They last maybe a little bit longer than the old school elastics, but you started seeing them again last year. Yeah, I could see them still being around and an option. I didn't find much difference with tube stows. They had a little less wear on the lines, I guess you could say. But I didn't really find them to be anything fantastic. I went right back to rubber bands after a season of trying tube stows. It didn't really do anything for me. But I don't know, they may be an option. I think there's a lot of headway getting made on the current rubber bands. I think the current companies adopted a new process, and they've got some other things coming out with their bands that are kind of trying to get back up to where the previous company had them. So
awesome. I do have another question. Maria, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, like personally, I go with the manufacturer, and a lot of them recommend using the regular elastic, so the regular size, and do double stows. Like, so I tend to just follow that.
Perfect.
They hold the lines better.
Dustin just commenting on the tube stow. He had one roll up to the point it locked the grommet and resulted in a bag lock.
Well, I've seen that happen when the double stow wasn't done properly. Like, I'm not saying that this was the point, but the only time I've seen it locked, it's because it was almost not triple pass, but it was kind of triple twisted and then around. So that tended to make it bunch up. And it's the only time I've seen it, but I haven't seen everything, so, but not saying that, but yeah, normally it would just do one twist and then around, and it's just when I teach packing, sometimes people starting, they just twist it too much and stuff, they don't really know how to do it, and that tends to lock it. But
And yeah, Dustin just commented the lines released, the tube so did not. I do have a question from Nikki. And Bill, I'm going to try to get you to answer this, but I know that I can answer this if you can't. But she was curious on how was the response for the recurrency requirement. So we'll see if Bill is able to get his.
In the first 6 months, it wasn't. Can you hear me?
We can. Yes. Yes.
In the first 6 months, it wasn't very responsive. It wasn't very responsive. But as time goes on and we have a new form and everybody understands why we're doing it for us, because we had a lot of issues with the coroner, for one, and the police services and the emergency services. We were the only entity in CSPA that didn't have to get recurrent. And we were questioned on it a lot. So for us to be more protected by CSPA, the answer was to show that we recurrent every year. And now that it's explained that way, people understand, everyone has accepted it, and it's actually good for us. We've actually been able to take a lot of people that haven't been rigging in the last 25 years, that they were just renewing their license, so the rigger rating stayed current. We were allowed to remove them. Because of that, we're allowed to have an available rigger list now, so it's actually worked out really good in the long run. I hope that answers your question, Nikki. Cool.
Awesome. I'm assuming, Nikki, did that answer your question? I can't see you, so I think it did. Any other questions, comments? Yep. Nikki says, yep. That's awesome. Any other questions? Bill, do you want to add anything at this point now that we have your voice back? Maybe.
No, I'd like to thank everybody for coming.
Oh, yeah. I will be doing that.
I think that went well. Don't ever hesitate. What's that?
You keep cutting in and out, Bill. Poor Bill. I promise it's nothing on my end. Well, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to close off this meeting and then I'll just let you guys all chit chat together. But on behalf of myself and my husband, Gord, who's just behind me, you got to come closer because it's blurry. From Skydive Vancouver Island. There you go. I want to just my deepest gratitude to obviously Bill, Marie-Eve, J-Rod for just taking the time out of your guys' schedule to be our panelists and to just support, this wonderful safety seminar thing that Skydive Vancouver Island's been doing now for a few years. And just, I really appreciate you guys leading by example and, taking that time to educate others. And I know at the same time, just educating yourself and all of that. Bill, of course, your dedication to rounding these guys together for me and committing it every year without question. For all of you guys that attended, thank you. I know it was a smaller group this year, but that is okay because again, it's recorded. So for all of you individuals who are watching this post-meeting recording, thank you so much. And I just hope everyone has a awesome, safe, fun season, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And hopefully you're just geared up as Marie-Eve was way back when she was like, I want to be a rigger. So I'm going to stop recording. But again, thanks guys so very much.
Thank you, Alison, for organizing that. That's awesome.
Nice.